Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just after market close on Friday, May 7th, and we're going to do the Friday thing, which we're doing for now, which is take a look at AMC and see where it might be headed in the weeks to come. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's dive right in. So the way that we're going to structure this is we're going to first take a look at the 3-month, 2-hour chart to sort of like get our bearings, get a lay of the land, where we are in a broader context. And then we're going to zoom in to the 5-minute, 5-day chart to see what sort of like happened this week that might give us some clues or some things to look for in terms of how to potentially play AMC next week. So right now, this is the 3-month, 2-hour, and it's flattening out nicely in my opinion. I think there's like a couple of things coming to converge. I think that there's a downtrend, obviously, that comes from this like 1487 zone. It basically cuts across some of this to about here. And then, and I know I lapped off some of this top, but I think that that's probably fine. And then there's this uptrend forming here that will collide with the downtrend in the future. So that gives us essentially what we call a flagging out pattern. That means that like it's going to break one of these two things. Even if it goes sideways through this, it will end up breaking both things, but eventually at some point it will make its turn to the upside or the downside. But I'd be looking for it to prematurely break one of these two trend lines and establish, ideally for the bullish case, over the top of this downtrend, or hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, fall through this uptrend and lose its like most important support at the moment. There's also like an actual horizontalish zone that's pretty apparent here, where you have all of this support, this support, this support, and this support, and it's just pushed a smidge off of that at this point. But I'd say right now that would sort of like be my cautionary zone, where like, hey, if something happens and it can't hold this, first of all, to get to that point, it would have to come below this uptrend. So that would be disappointing. But then if it also couldn't hold the 894, then I think it's probably, best case scenario, it gets caught at this like mid 8 level, like 850 or so. But it depends how tight you would want to keep something like a stop loss or whatnot. If you are in this and trying to figure out sort of like what your tolerance level for holding through downturns would be. But that's what I would look for on the downside. On the upside, some price targets that I look at for it to break out of this downtrend would be, there's going to be some stickiness right around here. There's all of this previous resistance. There's support here. It tried to do a little stutter step here, but couldn't hold it. And previous support through here. So all at the same level. Support here that gave it a big push up. So I would look for that 982 to be our next best area of support to help get out of this downtrend. Then I think you're going to have like a bunch of sticking points along the way. 1050-ish would be a good thing to turn from resistance into support. Right around here, 1121. So, stops on the dollar trail, essentially, like at some point on every dollar, we have a stop along the way. But, these are the zones, the 982, 1050, 1121, 1212 that I'd look for AMC, if it does get a bullish foothold going, to hit those zones as first resistance and then turn them into support and then continue on its march to higher price targets. But that's what I would look for now. And then we get into this sort of like messy zone, where if it can get itself above 1212, then we'll just take a look at this area and see what we can glean from that and sort of incorporate some of this older price action into it as well. So here's your chance if you want to take a screenshot or like pause it here to jot anything down about these price levels or the up and down trends. I'm going to pop it off the screen so that we can reset to the 3-month time frame and check out our MAs first for our indicators. So a bunch of coiling up here with the MAs, which is a good sign. Not only because it was coming off of a downtrend, right? At this point, everything had turned bullish right here. See, everything is, bearish. Everything is in a bearish formation here. The 180's on top, then the 50, then the 20, then the 12. So it sort of coming together to bunch up a little bit is going to say that it's sort of pumping the brakes on that push down. And the first way to reverse a trend is to start moving sideways. You kind of need to squash or kill that momentum that was happening in the downtrend, and then you can reverse course. So this is it, kind of like potentially grinding that push down to a halt, and then could give itself an opportunity to unwind in a bullish fashion, like you saw over here, where everything was pretty bunched. And then, this is a better example, where everything's pretty bunched right around here, and then it unwinds and things start getting greater distance between them on the 12, the 20, the 50, and the 180. So that's what I would look for on the MAs. The RSIs, basically mid-level, so that's good for it to sort of like be in this consolidation formation that it's building at the moment. So nothing major positive or negative there. A slight bullish uptrend on the MACD, like nothing incredible. The good thing here is the bearish momentum is basically dying down. You see that the depth to which the MACD dipped into the negative area below the baseline is sort of like receding, and then you had a nice bullish push here as it like relative to this one, and so what I'd look for is a next good bullish wave that blows past this like 0.54 area on the MACD line. But we do have a little bit of a crossover. I think you need something steeper for it to actually make a push up, but it's looking pretty decent at the moment. On the volume side, been a lot of pretty low volume. So if we sort of like lop the heads off a bunch of this stuff, still a lot of bullish momentum. Buying volume is probably a better way to put it. Buying volume in the stock, over the course of these last 3 months. But, obviously it's going to need some additional help to get there. All right, so that's the 3-month, 2-hour. Let's flip the script to see what's happening in the 5-day, 5-minute time frame. There's this big gap right here, obviously, but it has been filled, so I wouldn't really consider that much of anything. There's all of this topping out, so I'd be sort of mindful of this zone right here, and seeing it sort of like be able to get a push up over this area. It's probably very big. Something like this zone here. It's going to be pretty telling if it can make a run up there in the near future, because that is a lot of consistent topping out. And it's sort of following this like W type pattern where it was higher, then slightly lower, and then slightly higher. So it'll be interesting to see what it does the next time, but it'll need to get over that like high 9s. Establish some support there would be really helpful in the near term for this to be able to stop topping out at that point. The next one then it's going to have to contend with is just like the topping out that occurred here. I mean, you could basically stretch this back over here too, because there was topping out in this area there as well. So I know these are pretty close together, but so it goes. I mean, the price of the stock is pretty low, so as a percentage, $1 is more than 10% of the stock. So, but anyway, it does have this slight potential. I mean, this would be the best case scenario would be that this here turns into a channel, even if we lop off a bunch of this top here. Channels are just so predictable and so consistent until they break. that they're really, really reliable to play. Buying the dip toward the bottom of the channel, selling to take profit toward the top of the channel, rinse and repeat. I know I'll get some comments about like, we are diamond hands, we do not sell, but this is an AMC video, but it's not like analysis. It's not a diamond hands only kind of analysis. So these are the ones on the downside that I'd look for it to like be really important to hold. That would say, if it can't hold these, there might be sort of like systemic issue at play here. In a more immediate term, I would look for this zone, this 939, to hold. And if it can't, I think you have another pretty quick catch zone you should be able to rely on here, right about 929, 930. Then on the upside, your best bet is just going to be to follow the channel up if it does continue to build this channel. And really just watch out for this white box area. And if it can establish above that, basically start pushing the envelope toward 10. There's this 995 level. Getting support over that would be like primo at this point. Let's pop this off. You can always back up the video if you want to snatch it. My voice is very tired. I've done a lot of talking today, so I'm trying to hang in there. Trying to be a trooper. All right, so the MAs are coming to bunch up again. So the 180 you see coming in here at that 935 level should offer some additional support if it does try to dip down below it again. So hopefully that rushing in to bunch up with the other MAs is a good sign. So we'll look for like a bullish unraveling like we saw here. On the RSI, mid-range as well. So it's interesting, that the macro and the micro time frames that I look at anyway are so similar from the indicators. That could be a good sign that there's sort of like real value in what the indicators are showing, and there's not a lot of disparity between someone who's taking longer positions versus somebody who's taking shorter positions. On the MACD, also looks relatively familiar. There's this big dip here, smaller dip here, and then smaller dips here, though this one, most recent, is slightly deeper than this one. So I'd watch out for that a little bit. Could the bearish momentum be coming on? Sure. I think this next sort of effort from the bulls will be really telling, because you see this here, we've had good bullish jumps here, but they've sort of peaked at just about the same area. So it'll be interesting to see what it can do on its next big push. And this is coming right at the baseline. MACD right now is like right at the 0 baseline. So it'd be interesting to see what form or what direction it chooses to go in. Volume-wise, this looks pretty typical. Sort of like cup formation with the most volume at the beginning of the day, and then solid volume toward the end of the day. A lot of sell volume though. The biggest volume areas on the chart are red. So it's almost impressive, and this is probably something to consider. It's almost impressive that with all of that big bearish volume coming in, that the price has continued to just do this sideways thing over the course of days. So that to me could be a really good underlying sign that the bears are really trying to push this down with a lot of sell volume, but it's holding its ground, and it's basically holding its ground in a sideways fashion. So I think there could be some good signs coming up here. It's been a few weeks since I feel like we've had a few reasonably positioned bullish signs that could be forming. So keep an eye on those things. Hopefully this gave you some ideas if you're in AMC or if you take a position, some things to think through, some things to blend with your own due diligence that you do. You should always do your own analysis to see what you think is happening, and sort of blend it with other folks' ideas that you think have some merit to them. Okay, well, it's been a long week. I hope everyone survived it okay, and has a nice weekend and gets themselves ramped up for a successful week next week. All right, well, I wish you all the best, and that you all have a nice weekend off, and I will see you in the next video.